Hi, I'm Paul Howard, and I am delighted to be here to answer some of your questions that have been asked through hashtag Eason Asks. And the first question is, will you please write a GAA version of your books? That question comes in from Cecilia Ahern, presumably the Cecilia Ahern. Yeah, I think about this quite a lot actually. I've thought about it a good bit over the years. Ross's initials are Rock, and he is the star kicker on his team, or was back in the day. And there is a Gaelic footballer whose surname is Rock and who is a star player and the kicker on the Dublin football team. Who knows? Maybe Dean Rock could be the model for a series of GAA type Ross books. Anyway. Maybe down the line. How did you first think of writing the Ross O'Carroll Kelly books? Well, there was a kid who the original Ross O'Carroll Kelly story was based on, and he went to a school that shall remain anonymous, Blackrock College, and I was covering one of his matches as a sports reporter, and as I was leaving the ground, I heard him say to his father, "I don't give a fuck how you think I played. Just crack open the wallet." And he became the model for the very, very first Ross O'Carroll Kelly story 22 years ago. And is still kind of my muse, really. You know, he's kind of still inspires me. I don't know who he is, but that's where the idea came from. Have you ever been threatened with legal action over the books and people claiming that you were referring to them? Or have you had abuse from people over how both sides of the city, example Bray, are portrayed? Well, I've never been threatened with legal action, but several times over the years, certain similarities have cropped up, coincidences where, you know, I'll write a storyline and it'll turn out that something similar actually happened in real life. It happens occasionally with names as well. There was a Dublin hurler called Ross O'Carroll, and it's just a horrendous coincidence that he happened to share a name with this obnoxious South Dublin brat. But a friend of his told me that when he rings up restaurants trying to make a reservation, or when he, say, phones a call centre, or looks to book something, a delivery of something, and says his name is Ross O'Carroll, they don't believe him. And so I probably owe him an apology if ever I meet him. The question about different parts of Dublin, complained about how they're portrayed. The only time it's really come up in the last few years is Bray. Like, a couple of people I know from Bray have asked me to maybe write something nice about Bray for a change. Ross always refers to Bray as Bray of all places, and he has this really kind of disparaging view of it. And I love Bray, and I spent a good deal of my teenage years and my 20s hanging out in Bray, and it's a place that's very, very dear to me. So the next Ross O'Carroll Kelly book is called Bray Watch, and it's set in Bray, and Ross goes to Bray to coach the Pres Bray Leinster School Senior Cup team. And he does that because I've always wanted to write a book about the Bray that I know and love, rather than the Bray that Ross doesn't know and loathes. With the large amount of books in the series, do you ever struggle with mental block when it comes to writing? I think, like any writer, I have days when it doesn't come easily. There's times when, if you took me by the ankles and shook me, you couldn't get another Ross O'Carroll Kelly storyline out of me. But then I'll come up with something, and then, what often happens when I come up with a storyline is, different storylines sort of branch off from that. There's quite a lot of characters in the Ross universe. I think there's about 90 different characters kind of active in the columns and the books at the moment. So if I run out of storylines relating to Ross, I can always kind of focus on Ronan, or focus on Honor, or focus on Sorcha. And then, my books are based on, they're topical, so there's they're always based on what's happening in the news. So I suppose as long as there's news, then there will always be ideas for scenarios, situations to put Ross in. What's left for Ross's midlife crisis? I don't know if he's had, a conventional midlife crisis. I kind of think Ross's life has been a midlife crisis. I think he's been having it since he was about 16 years of age. I don't think he'll get the red Ferrari and the ponytail and the 25-year-old girlfriend. I think Ross's midlife crisis will be to convince himself that he can play rugby again, something like that. Will a compilation of the weekly columns ever be published? I'd love nothing more than to go back to 1998 and start all over again. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've been writing Ross for 22 years now, a weekly column for 22 years between the Sunday Tribune and the Irish Times. So I've written over 1,000 columns. For about the last 10 years, I stopped putting the material from the columns into the books. So the stuff in the columns is kind of relatively fresh. I get requests from time to time for old columns going way back to the Sunday Tribune days, and then some of the more recent ones I've done, like the Mount Anvil Moms WhatsApp group, and then recently the Vico Road going mad baking banana bread. Those stories, I get requests all the time for links to those stories. So maybe I will one day put them all together in a book. So thanks to everybody who submitted a question to Easons Asks. My new book, Bray Watch, is going to be published on the 3rd of September, and I'm really, really excited about it. And it's available for pre-order now from Easons.com. Thank you.